Welcome everyone to What the Force. So with me today is Alex and Molly from Star Wars Explained with special guest. Welcome, guys.
Hey, we're here, and also our 4-month-old puppy is occasionally with us. He might chime in here or there.
Yeah. We tried to start without, but he made his presence known, even in the other room, and now he's sitting behind Molly, and it's so cute. He's very cute.
Okay.
So
All right.
If we hear him, that's cool. We've got a puppy guest too. What's his name?
Hilo.
Awesome.
It's a Battlestar Galactica call sign.
Nice. Little nerd crossover, but that's okay. You do other stuff too now.
Our last dog was named Biggs, so we thought we'd mix it up a little this time.
So I know that you have gone on other podcasts and talked a little bit about kind of how you got started and kind of what interested you about Star Wars, but I would love to hear it like kind of on my show and hear, what is Star Wars Explained all about and how did you kind of start it? Why do you do it? I think that that's really, really interesting.
It started because I wanted to study for a trivia contest at Dragon Con. It's a local, it's still very big. It's a big fan-run sci-fi fantasy convention in Atlanta, and they have a big Star Wars trivia contest every year. And I first entered it in 2012, and I just kept entering, and I would do well, and I'd get close, but I'd never win. And so I was like, I'm going to study, and I'll document my studying because it'll really help solidify it. And so I started making videos about it, and then people started watching them. And then it kind of became big enough where I'm like, maybe I should be reviewing stuff. And I don't know, it just kind of transformed over the years. And yeah, I guess that's how I started in it.
Yeah, I mean, when the movies would come out, we would do reviews, and then we started doing book reviews, and it just spiraled from there.
Yeah. I mean, the contest is all Canon stuff. So all the books, all the comics, I was like, I'm keeping up with it anyway. I should talk about it on the channel. And then people just started to really enjoy that.
And Molly, I think that you kind of started joining in, maybe just to give him somebody to talk to, because it's lonely talking about Star Wars to yourself.
Yeah.
I wasn't as involved with it in the beginning, but then I started doing all the social media for it, because once the channel started growing, I was like, oh, we could definitely help this grow more if we made a Twitter account and a Facebook group. And
I had no interest in that.
And
or no know-how.
Instagram and all that stuff. So I started doing all that for the channel. And then I started popping up on the Q&As every so often. And now I'm like a permanent guest on the Q&A.
Yeah.
And I've learned a ton about Star Wars since we started the channel. So it's been great.
What is your favorite aspect of Star Wars, Molly?
I guess just the central message that not only the movies, but the TV shows, the books, just the characters at their core and what they represent. It's so universal, and I have that shirt from Celebration that says Star Wars is for everyone, and it's so true. Everyone can find something in Star Wars to relate to. So that's probably my favorite thing about it. It's not a specific thing, I guess.
Alex?
I'm obsessed with trivia, clearly. And it's been interesting doing this channel. I've definitely almost tried to get away from that. And I've seen people with podcasts like you who really dive into what a story means and what a storyteller is trying to say. And that's not something I ever used to think about. I would just take in the story and be like, cool. And I do think I soaked up some of the lessons. I just wasn't thinking about them. And I've enjoyed actually trying to take a stab at analyzing some of these stories now and seeing what is this storyteller trying to say. But on a more superficial level, I love pilots.
Pilots and spaceships.
What's your favorite pilot and or spaceship?
Biggs Darklighter is my favorite character. So he also has to be my favorite pilot, and X-Wing. If I could fly anything, I'd fly an X-Wing.
They do sort of have a really unique shape to them that's really appealing. I made these necklaces that I gave to a bunch of people at Celebration out of the little figures from the X-Wing game. And I just made them into necklaces, and people loved the X-Wing because it takes up an interesting space, I think it's probably the prettiest rebel ship.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So this show, as you know, is called What the Force, and we explore so many different aspects of Star Wars, but primarily I try to get my Force, I don't know, connoisseur nature out into the podcast and appreciate what is being told very much through the story about the Force. And I've explored this question with authors from Star Wars. I've explored this question with, fans, with people who are trying to kind of answer this question for themselves. So, you have a very unique angle because you try very much to wrap your arms around kind of all the canonical knowledge and know probably more than anyone that I've ever spoken with. What is the Force for you both?
You gave us a heads up about this question, and I everything I thought of, I was like, this is just going to sound so hippie, but I guess to me, it's just the universe, man, and just good and bad energy, and that's all I could really think of is that it's just kind of that idea that if you put out positive vibes into the world, then positive vibes will come back to you, and it's just what I guess George has said when he's talking about these are morality tales for young people who are growing up and getting ready to enter the world, and that there are basically two ways to handle every situation, and you can handle things with anger or you can handle things with grace and try to make things better instead of worse.
Mm-hmm.
That's not too hippie.
I tried to get away from the, but ultimately I do just kind of think there is just this power, man.
And for me, I would say the Force it's all about balance, and I'm really into the idea of the balance of the Force, and everybody needs balance in their lives, and the Force itself is kind of an ecosystem. It's got its own world, and it's a constant turnover of energy. I don't know, and then the way that Yoda describes it and Rey describes it in Last Jedi really resonated with me. It's just the thing in between all things that connects it and makes life.
I guess, yeah, that's the connection between all things, is that you're not alone. Everything you do affects something or someone else, and that's the energy.
It's a really hard thing to kind of wrap your heads around when you're okay, so there's this kind of, again, hippie idea that everything is connected, man. We're all in this together. And sort of the really interesting conceit of Star Wars is that they made it have superpowers. Your energy is flowing. It's that kind of hippie idea, but they made it actually be real. People actually have powers. People are actually able to, do things with it if they are able to connect with that kind of larger concept. And I think that that's kind of the thing that is I don't know, brilliant about the fantasy of Star Wars, is that it kind of took it and made that idea that many religions call on, and George himself it said that it came from the idea of life force originally, and the force that is between everybody else, and how energy of others kind of affects you and your surrounding areas, and those intentions that you have really drive whether you are say making the world a better place or not. And, Dave Filoni would say it's primarily about being selfless or selfish, things like that. And yeah, the balance of the Force is a really interesting question that is posed not only in the prequel trilogy, but also again in the sequel trilogy, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love how Luke talks about it, and The Last Jedi and how it's not something that belongs to the Jedi. Because once you make it something that belongs to someone or doesn't belong to someone, then it becomes something that you can covet and want more of or be jealous of. And that's just not how you work with the Force. That's not how the Force works.
It's a slippery slope to the dark side when you start to want to possess even just aspects of the Force. Yeah. That's awesome. I love both of your explanations, and they're very, very awesome. So what is kind of the most interesting aspect of the Force in this weird world? Because without this almost, weird spirituality, and sort of concept, it really is just kind of a sci-fi, without kind of this fanciful addition to the universe. So what is it about it that, you like, is interesting, calls to you?
I would say I like that there are different levels that people interact with the Force. Like anyone can connect to the Force in different ways. You mentioned midi-chlorians and the outline, which we could get into in a little bit, but aside from that, if you have like a high midi-chlorian count, you're very gifted in the ways of the Force. But there's so many other characters like Maz Kanata, who says that she can connect to the Force and feel it. And I think that that's really interesting and cool about the Force, that anybody can tap into it, but it takes a lot of work and concentration and maybe a little bit of science.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar, that I really also love Luke's speech in The Last Jedi to Rey, where that power does not belong to the Jedi, it's for everyone. And like Star Wars is for everyone, so is the Force. And that's why I think people had a little bit of an issue with midi-chlorians at first, was that it's I thought that anyone could do this if you just were connected with yourself and with the universe. It was something for everyone. And I think it still is. I don't think midi-chlorians overwrite that. But I like that anyone has the potential to be Force sensitive or whatever. It's just that you need to buckle down and do the work.
Yeah, meditate.
Yeah, just learn to like yourself. Ultimately, I think is part of just the meditation and learning who you are and being at peace and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like you said, being selfless.
Yeah, primarily when you think about Luke meditating, or, Qui-Gon in The Phantom Menace, or any of these people that kind of connect or are in the moment feeling the Force, they are feeling their own feelings, right? They're trying to understand who they are so that they can understand kind of their place in the entire galaxy and what that all means. And, kind of through connecting with themselves, they are able to connect with the larger universe, world, wherever they happen to be at. And it's that interconnection that is important. And where Luke really struggles on Dagobah is that he has too much stuff kind of in the way of him kind of understanding what that is, I think.
Yeah, and he also feels pretty rushed. He's I gotta go save my friends, we're kind of on a time crunch here.
I mean, he doesn't have the faith. I mean, the idea that Anakin was too old to start training. Luke's over here starts at 19, and he only really does a little bit with Obi-Wan. His real training starts at 22, and he just has trouble grasping the idea that any of this is even possible. And I don't know, that's... That reminds me of, I'm taking improv lessons right now, and we were talking with one of my teachers after class, and he was talking about how when we're young, you just you play pretend and you have imagination, and it's just something that over time you stop doing because it's not socially acceptable or whatever. And he was like, improv is about you learning to reconnect with that side of yourself and with your imagination, and just the ability to let go and be a goofball and look stupid on stage and not care. And I'm that's actually just popping back into my head, where it's when you're a kid, and that's why we see kids in the Clone Wars using the Force effortlessly. They don't have these blocks as adults.
They aren't told for years and years and years that you shouldn't have an imagination, or you should get serious, or you should only think about the serious things. And, also told to ignore their feelings and just, be stoic and get through it. There's also a lot of that too, which, I think that, some people argue like, oh, Rey didn't do training. Well, it's actually not about training. It's about, what do you have to unlearn before you can actually access the innermost workings of yourself to be able to access the Force. So let's talk about some interesting Force stuff. We don't have to talk about midi-chlorians if you don't want to, but maybe we should, because they're kind of the most interesting canonical thingy to do with the Force. That's like, what was George thinking? Why did he want to go to the microcosm world? Why did he want to go to way down there and explain how superpowers and work and how the energy between each other works? It's such a weird thing.
Yeah, ever since we discovered that his idea for a sequel trilogy would have been diving deeper into the world of midi-chlorians and
like microbiology
and the Guardians of the Wills and like all that kind of stuff. It's fascinating, and I would love to pick his brain or just like know what story he would have told in that world.
It's interesting. I don't really mind midi-chlorians anymore. I really like the explanation I think I've seen Pablo give, where it was more meant to be, and this was just, I don't think it was properly communicated, but I think it was meant to show how cold and medicinal the Jedi had become. Because like the Jedi Order and the prequels are not what you imagined when you saw the original trilogy. And it's like they had become so not mystical, and that they were judging potential through blood tests and being very technical about it, and being like, well, Anakin has this massive midi-chlorian count, so yeah, he can break some rules. Whereas there might be people who have great potential in the Force that would do great things. They just don't have a high midi-chlorian count, and they're just like, you're not worth the effort or something like that.
Yeah, they became more Order than Jedi.
Right.
There's a lot in there to say that the doctrine of the Jedi became route rather than necessarily spiritual, and kind of having faith in what maybe the Force was presenting them. And so the Force like threw them this chosen one, and it's like, this chosen one is like, look, it checks all your boxes except he's a little old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that you're right, like that. And like, I think I've heard Pablo say like midi-chlorians are just like radio transmitters. It allows you to hear the Force easier rather than necessarily manipulate the Force. It was like you're just like a radio antenna for the Force, rather than maybe any sort of special ability to actually use it. But maybe being able to actually hear it makes it easier to actually tell what it wants you to do. And if you give yourself over to the Force, then that makes it easier. Whereas we see examples of that with like Chirrut kind of just doing what the Force wants him to do, and he's able to do kind of miraculous things.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the Darth Plagueis book. It had a decent explanation too. And it's also like page 1 of the book where it's like, let's get this out of the way. It's basically that midi-chlorians like to congregate around people who are strong in the Force. So it's not so much that they cause Force sensitivity. It's more just a sign of it.
And
it's like having a certain protein or something in your blood because of something about you.
Yeah. And they like latch on and become a symbiote, it's really bizarre.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea that like it's almost like that's how they've gone away from, say, what maybe the Jedi should be, and almost showing kind of, I imagine what, ended up being, we have to prove what being a Jedi is and being a Force user is way back to when the Jedi and Sith actually split. Like something where it's just kind of progressed to this point where they're just so weird. They're scared to police the galaxy anymore. Like we learned that in Dooku Jedi Lost. They're, they got problems when we get to the prequels.
Yeah, they've really lost their way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I can see what George was going for in the prequels, and it's just I don't think it was communicated super well. That maybe in the crawl or something, it could have said something about how the Jedi used to be this one way, but since then, like, their days of glory have faded or something like that. I think that would have helped.
Because like the film styles that he ended up using, especially during Attack of the Clones with all of the film noir, actually do say that from a film perspective. But the actual words, like, it's like, no, we're the best. Why don't you believe us? We're the best. It just doesn't seem to, like, I don't know. Yeah, I think that sometimes they just weren't as successful, although the tragic nature of the prequels ending with Revenge of the Sith really does give us that, like, feeling like everything's gone downhill from, you know, the glory days of the Republic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your golden boy has now become Darth Vader.
Oh man.
Yeah, I guess it would be even harder to be like in Phantom Menace, like everything's perfect. And then, I mean, you have to have things looking pretty good so that you can lose it, instead of jumping in and being like, nothing's the way it should be, and it's only going to get worse.
I think that, like, they've done a really good job in the last, 8 months to tell us, hey, you know what? Things maybe weren't as shiny as we thought, just with, you know, the additional materials that we've received kind of through the books, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the bendu?
Sure.
The bendu is, I think, kind of one of the weirdest things that Dave Filoni created.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Like, even, like, I think the Mortis stuff is pretty out there. I like it, but it
makes sense bizarre. To me more than the bendu does.
Right. The bendu is just like this moose guy in the middle of this random planet. I mean, maybe he can move around. I don't think he's dead or anything, but yeah, it's
So that's the thing. Like, he showed up and he spouted off a bunch of advice, and he was really mad that they brought war to where he was hanging out. But then he kind of helped them and then disappeared. Like, is he dead? Is he transferred into something else? The way we left off with the bendu, I was just really confused. But I did enjoy him in Rebels and what he brought to the table.
Yeah, so he's supposed to be the one in the middle. And like when he does help the Rebels, but it wasn't really on purpose. Like, he was just trying to mess everybody up, and the Rebels were able to escape because of it.
The ultimate troll.
Right. Like,
they even kind of made him look troll-like. So maybe that was the thing. Like, you're disturbing my planet. And they kind of made him look not only kind of animalistic, but also organic, like plant-like too, because he kind of faded into the plants that were around. Yeah. He was definitely an oddity of the living force, if anything.
Mm-hmm. Like, the fact that him claiming that he is the one in the middle makes me think that, like, maybe that's just the form he took on Adelon. Maybe he can travel to other planets and he'll take on different forms or something. Because, like, I don't think that he died at the end of season 3. I just figure he went somewhere else. But I'm like, it is so weird.
Like, when you hear people like Dave talk about Yoda's lost missions and how that, like, Force font planet that he goes to, he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it disappeared as soon as Yoda was done with it. It's like, so are things ever actually, are these Force places, like these vergences in the Force, as some people call them, like, ever there for very long, or just kind of there for when you need them for a little while? Yeah,
it's like Dagobah and Octo, they said, both have these weird time qualities where, like, time doesn't work the same way. So really, Rey and Luke could have been on those planets for as long as the story needed them to be, because especially in Empire, the timeline is very odd.
Yes.
But it could be like Luke was there for a couple days, but in his experience, it was months.
Mm-hmm. Just, he's a really slow student.
Yeah.
No, it's I think that there is this kind of really interesting aspect, like, that we don't know, and these Force vergences, like sort of hyperspace travel, travel at the speed of the plot rather than necessarily kind of, through logical means, which I think for some fans, it can be kind of frustrating to remind you that sometimes things, especially the whole, Force Skype stuff, who knows, like with the Force Skype, with the world between worlds, like these things could be instantaneous or they could take actually a significant amount of time. And part of that is because it is fanciful, it is fairy tale.
Yeah. Yeah, I love when the bendu speaks with Thrawn and Rebels and like it gives him kind of like a sneak peek into the finale of Rebels. I did really like that.
What is something that is particularly interesting to you from a conceptual idea?
The world between worlds is like my favorite thing right now. I'm obsessed with that. I was blown away by that in Rebels when it happened.
The art design in and of itself was glorious. Like it was fascinating to just watch that episode and like soak it all in.
Yeah. I just remember like Ezra jumped in that thing and I was like, where'd he go? And then you just hear all those voices and I was just like, what is going on? But like I had chills the whole time.
Yeah. So what do you think the world between worlds is? It's okay. We have a guest.
I don't know. Like, I guess it's just this way to travel between time and space. Like the Force is just completely outside of that. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than our world. So I don't know if someone made it, if the Mortis gods made it, or if it made itself, or what. Like it just makes so many questions, and there's no answers. But
Dave did give us one answer, which is that it's like the wood between worlds in Narnia. So that pulls on the idea that it's this like junction between different worlds within the Force, or different locations, different times, etc. The wood between worlds in Narnia you can access through two rings, one that lets you in and one that lets you out.
It kind of makes me think of Nightmare Before Christmas, the very beginning where you have all the doors.
The holiday doors.
All the holiday worlds.
Gives you some insight into that. So we have in that episode, Palpatine wanting to get in there. Why does he want to get in there?
I think he wants access to all those portals to just mess stuff up even more.
I think he just knows that there's power in controlling time and space. I think anything he hears about, he's like, I want it. Like we mentioned earlier about trying to possess and make it yours. I think he wants to do that with anything he could find, whether he understands it or not.
Yeah, a Force object, a Jedi relic, an entire temple. Like he seems to just want to collect all of these different things. And in some ways, because he took over the Jedi temple, he also took over kind of all the Sith artifacts that were there, the ruins underneath it, the Jedi temple itself. Like he is kind of able to master anything he wants or control anything he wants in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's also partly like his obsession with living forever.
Sure.
He probably thinks that he could do that pretty easily if he had access to the world between worlds.
Couldn't hurt.
Somebody pointed out just recently to me that like he gave Vader all of the keys to make his Vader Fortress Vader on Mustafar, and then said, good, anything that you learn we'll share.
Yeah, and there's definitely something going on there.
Yes, we have learned that there is so much going on, and Vader Immortal actually just came out the day that we were recording this. So what did you think? Did you get to do a watch through of it?
He's played it.
Yeah, I played it.
Oh, you played it?
Yeah.
I have not played it yet.
It was fun. Yeah, it's a whole different experience having the visor on and like falling down that pit or having to climb and dodge stuff. I screamed a few times. But yeah, all this stuff with Lady Corvax and I don't know, the Bright Star. It's like this new Force relic, not a Jedi relic. It's the same kind of thing though. Like the Sith learn about this thing that exists. And I don't think Vader really understands it because Lady Corvax certainly didn't. but he just wants it and he wants to use it no matter the consequences.
Yeah. And I think you said when you played it, since episode 2, you're able to like use the Force. Now you did that for the most part.
Yeah, like you have a light sword, not a lightsaber, and you have the Force. And I like barely used the light sword. I had it on the whole time, but I was just throwing rocks and stuff around.
And crushing robots. Like I saw a walkthrough where they were crushing the robots and all of that. So there was a lot of stuff introduced in episode 1 and episode 2, not the least of which is this concept of the Black Bishop, who we find out kind of through the storyline.
Oh, yeah.
Is Lord Corvax. The Lady Corvax is deceased, quote unquote, stuck between two worlds, as he says, husband, who she tried to use this, relic, this powerful artifact to save him. And it ended up actually kind of trapping him, cursed, as he calls it. Wow. It feels like we're walking down the same path Vader did.
Yeah, it does feel like that. And I mean, I think that's why Vader is so interested. And yeah, like something similar happened with Lady Corvax, where she wound up destroying her entire world basically because she didn't want to lose her husband. I think Vader did more damage to the entire galaxy, but yeah, it is kind of like that fear of loss all over again.
Mm-hmm. What was the most interesting thing that you saw in episode 2?
I mean, probably just like the Black Bishop, when I learned that, this is Lord Corvax and he's just been kind of sort of dead for so long. And he's not in episode 1, you get the idea that he's on Vader's side. So right now I'm a little bit is he lying to us? Is he lying to Vader, or both of us? I don't know what his end game is. Maybe he was just trying to help Vader find the Bright Star so the midi-chlorians could take it back or something. But yeah, and it's also just how is he a ghost? Is he tangible? Again, it's like Roll Between Worlds. There's just so many questions, and
you can't really see him very well, because he's kind of there and not there. I don't know. The problem with watching walkthroughs is that you're please turn to the left.
Oh yeah. It's hard to record those because I'm I want to look at everything, but I know that some people want to see this one specific thing. So I'm trying to consciously remember what I should and shouldn't be looking at.
Be what is interesting here? A few of the kind of really interesting things that I picked up, I'm actually going to go and grab my notes. One of the things that I was oh, that's interesting. Why is that happening there? We got to see kind of a mural of Lady Corvax's her fortress or her castle, and above it is two what looks like twin suns, like Tatooine has.
Yeah. I wonder if that. Yeah. I don't know if it means anything or if it's trying to drive
Star
more
Wars,
parallels.
Everything.
Yeah, right. Well, it's probably trying to drive that parallel between Vader and Lady Corvax, I guess. Yeah. I hadn't thought about it until right now. I remember looking at it and being neat, and walking away.
Cool, I'm going to go throw some more rocks.
Where are rocks at?
There's tons of feminine symbolism spread throughout this whole thing. It's actually kind of it's like going to Acto again and remembering how many caves and how caves are feminine symbols in culture. And there's the one kind of platform that you put the kind of key into, and it looks round, kind of looks like the Millennium Falcon in a way. It's that round thing with the raised areas, and that's a yonic symbol. That is what yoni look like, which in the Hindu religion is basically the symbol for Parvati.
So this is why I wanted to talk about Vader Immortal with you, because I knew that you'd have a bunch of stuff where I was just I was looking for Easter eggs.
and to me, the symbolism is the Easter eggs.
Yeah.
When they're saying we recently saw the advent calendar with Kylo and Rey with literally twin suns behind them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they're not only drawing parallels to Anakin and Lady Corvax, but they're saying that also that Rey and Kylo also are in this, in a way, like ring storytelling. Like the Star Wars It Rhymes chiastic parallel. And yeah, there's feminine stuff all over the place. The fact that there's a feminine cave below Vader's castle, like a feminine castle below Fortress Vader, is like, what are you doing to me, Star Wars? There's so much symbolism in this.
No wonder he's still plagued by the thought of Padme.
Yeah.
Can't get her out of his mind. No, and like when you read now Vader 2017 or play this game, you're like, Vader is really sad.
Yeah.
The scene in episode 1 where he took his helmet off was sad. He took his helmet off and like you only see him from the back, but he's like trying to talk to Padme again. Like, man, you're still on this. But
yeah.
There was a little note about the creature that attacks you, that keeps on attacking you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this was in the article. They interviewed the writers and the creators of it, and that creature is a woman.
Oh, really?
And she's protecting her eggs.
Oh no!
And you kill her.
Oh, yep.
Wow.
Well, I didn't really kill her.
Other people.
Yeah.
The Force
I was doing my best to do damage, and I kept missing. So.
All right.
What did you think of, like, you know, learning to use the Force? Did you feel like that was very, I don't know, true to canon, etc.? Like,
felt like I learned how to use it too fast, and I'm just a Gary Stu now. So
Gary Stu.
I can't.
Where did all your power come from? You trained for what, 5 minutes?
Yeah, Vader threw a couple rocks at me, and I'm like, got it. I know how to do it now.
He kept on yelling at you. Like, what kind of mentor is he?
Yeah.
Kept on saying that you suck.
Well, I did. He hit me with a lot of rocks.
Oh. Like, do you have a health bar? Can you die?
I don't think so. I think that if you take too much damage, you just reset, because the dark gas did hit me once, and I just like, it kind of put me back a couple paces, and I kept on going.
So excited to play this now.
I don't know. I feel like, Molly, when you look, you'll be like, wow, what's with that pretty painting? Another thing I noticed, and another friend of mine noticed, was Lady Corvax's actual statue that Vader puts back together has an Anakin scar over her eye.
Really? I did not notice that at all.
Yeah. It could be just a crack in the actual statue, but I think I know Star Wars well enough that anything visual is on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
like that.
We love a good scar in Star Wars now.
That makes complete sense.
Well,
even
actually,
if it is a crack.
It's interesting because it's Anakin's is on the right side and Kylo's is on the left side, and hers is like right down the middle.
Huh. It's not even barking at anything right now. What are you doing? All right, I'm going to get him another toy real quick.
Sure.
He's going crazy.
I'm super excited for you to play, Molly.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely, because I saw your Twitter thread about all that stuff, and I'm going to keep an eye out for
I didn't even put like half the stuff in there because I need to do like a deep dive and actually rewatch it again with like episode 1 and episode 2 to like fully understand kind of the connection stuff, because like with the Black Bishop, I didn't get that he was maybe working for Vader in the first, or like, you know, he was maybe trying to like get you to find the bright star.
Yeah, it was a little bit vague in the first episode. Throwing toys at him.
They won't like one of them.
Don't give him any of the squeaky ones.
Yeah, I kept those away. All right, he's chewing on something.
All right. Speculation. What are we going to see in episode 3 of Vader Immortal?
So, I mean, the obvious stuff is you've got the light sword. You're going to lead this army against his castle, which seems like, I mean, obviously we're going to do it as the player, but for the character, I'd be like, I'd rather just get back to my ship.
Am I the best candidate for this?
Yeah, I just kind of got thrown into this, and I just learned I could even use the Force.
Cool sword, though.
Oh yeah, I'm
Cool
keeping the
sword.
sword.
Is it just episode 3? Is that going to be the end of it? Or is
I
Yeah.
believe so.
And yeah, the sword is very beautiful, by the way. It is the prettiest lightsaber I've ever seen.
Oh, I spent, I don't know, 3-4 minutes just turning it on and off and looking at it. It is really cool.
Is it like the one from Secrets of the Empire?
It seems like a step between.
Okay.
The Secrets of the Empire one had like 2 prongs, and they were like physical blades that then would react with energy. This one lights up like a lightsaber, but it still felt a little like it might just break at any second.
Yeah. It looked like an art piece or like a
Yeah.
caduceus, like the winged snake a little bit. Like it kind of had that look.
I remember when we saw the 2-pronged, whatever that is, it looked like a kind of a light sword type thing.
Yeah.
In Secrets of the Empire. I was positive that we would see it come back in some form or fashion. And I still hope that happens because it was such a cool design.
We might. It's the same writer that did Secrets of the Empire did Vader Immortal, and they're supposed to be connected and they're supposed to take place at like the same time. So there might be. All right. Well, here's some wild speculation. You'll see the Secrets of the Empire mission take place in episode 3 from a different point of view.
Yeah.
So Vader's just like
He's
having a rough day.
Oh yeah, because when you see him in Secrets of the Empire, he's just like not having it.
He never is.
Well, no.
He's always having a terrible, no good, very bad day.
Yeah.
Always.
So I do hope we see the Proto Saber. I'm wondering what's going to happen to the Bright Star. I guess I don't want the Mustafarians to heal their planet because I really want to see Vader's castle on Mustafar in episode 9. So I'm like, selfishly, I want your planet to stay a hellscape. I'm sorry, but
Well,
Do we know when this is happening? I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't read like the right stuff. But like, when is this happening?
I think it's about a year before A New Hope.
So it's
Somewhere
probably.
in there.
I mean, they don't succeed because.
Oh yeah,
Rogue One.
there's Rogue One. I mean, they might get it, and who knows? Maybe it takes 1,000 years to turn things
activate
around.
it. Be like,
It did look a little less lava-y in Rogue One, so maybe things are getting better.
maybe.
It's like they're planting trees. They keep on burning down,
But they're trying.
but they're trying.
They've turned it into yet another desert planet.
Oh,
I mean, there's a lot of symbolism in desert planets, in lava planets, and ice planets. They're all like considered to be dead rather than alive, right? And in Star Wars, like you can go and read about the production design even from Empire Strikes Back and how they consider dead planets and alive planets to be sort of like you're in the underworld when you're in a dead planet. And it's about, you know, what is the journey that you're trying to take in that location and whether you're actually, you know, learning something from it.
See, this is why I listen to these other podcasts, because like this is all stuff that I'm just like, that's not how my brain works. I need you guys.
We found out, was this new information today that we found out about Jana being from an oceanic moon?
Oh,
Yeah, that was the first I'd heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it was in one of those little placard things, I think. Yeah.
And then someone else pointed out on Twitter that Endor is said to have had 9 moons, so
Could be one of those.
could be another one.
And Pisana as well is like desert-ish.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we think that Pisana and these other locations, like where Jana is, are different planets? Because we have the like biome rule in Star
Right.
Wars.
Yeah, we had somebody ask about that, if there were any Star Wars planets that had multiple biomes. It wasn't just desert or, you know, whatever. And I think you said Endor.
Endor does have, I mean, it's forest, mostly forest, but it has oceans. I mean, yeah, like Naboo and Alderaan had different climates, but it was mostly like, it's just pretty everywhere.
Yeah, it's just nice.
Yeah, Naboo had like the swamplands and then the lake country. Those were kind of the differences. And then Alderaan had the mountains, and I think they had plains, but I don't know. We haven't really seen them.
well, I remember Legends, like Corellia was basically an Earth-like planet where there were a bunch of different things, but now it's an ocean planet, I think, that people built cities on top of.
Canon's weird. I'm sorry, you have to keep up with it. I just assume that everything that they do is in the sake of story, so...
I think so.
I hope so. I hope so. All right. What do you think we are going to see in The Rise of Skywalker that is weird and Forcey?
Like, these are the things that I can never predict what the Force is going to do. Like, I don't know that if I ever would have been able to guess that Luke could pull the lightsaber to his hand in Empire after just seeing A New Hope. Like, every movie does change it a little bit. So, and like the Force Skype, I never would have guessed that. And I loved it. So what could they do new?
I have been saying from the beginning that I want to see Kylo Ren use the Force in a major way, and we've seen some toys that say stuff like Force Rage, which we've already seen him Force Rage.
Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and admit it.
That's just what he calls it. They're like, "Sir, are you okay?" Just using Force Rage.
Yeah, and the fact that it's on a toy makes me not want to look into it that much. But I'm like, part of me is like, maybe Kylo uses some new crazy Force powers that we've never seen before.
So part of that toy, and I think it's the mask, right, that you're talking about, is that it lights up with Force Rage. Mm-hmm. And so I'm actually thinking that he has red lightning.
I've heard some people speculate about that.
That's only been seen from the brother in Mortis so far. That would be interesting.
And in Vader 2017, at the end, in his vision, Padme gets struck by red lightning.
I like a lot of the especially aggressive, I guess, dark side Force powers. I feel like they've been explored so heavily in video games that, like, I could see him doing some sort of Star Killer Galen Merrick, like just explosion of the Force that kills everyone in a radius. But we've never seen something like that on screen. I had someone ask me what I thought about the idea that Kylo could lose his Force powers at the end, or like give them up or something. That I feel like would be very unique and new.
The idea of either losing your connection to the Force completely, or someone, I guess Luke willingly cut himself off, but he was able to turn it back on.
I wonder if someone could, this is where it falls apart for me. Like, this did happen in some Legends comics and stuff, but I guess I know Lucas didn't like the Yuuzhan Vong or the Salamirian Legends because he didn't like the idea that a living thing couldn't interact with the Force. So, but if Luke could cut himself off, I'm wondering if Rey could cut Kylo off, and it would have to be like a conscious effort, but
she puts him in timeout.
Right.
Well, it's very Avatar The Last Airbender, with Aang and the Fire Lord. Like, Aang's choice was to do that. But this always draws me back to, I think that we're going to get Rey and Kylo fighting together in the end against Palpatine because of what J. Abrams said at Celebration, which is, this is what the new generation is inheriting from the old, the good and the bad, and how they're going to take on the greatest evil that has ever been known.
Yeah. I totally agree. I would love to see them fighting side by side against a greater threat.
I mean, I think that's likely. The lengths that they have gone to, Kylo's done some terrible things, and I think that he needs to pay for them, but they've made him so much more sympathetic than Vader ever was.
I remember when we were doing the initial breakdown of the teaser at Celebration of that first shot of her, doing the flip over the ship. And we don't necessarily know who's in the ship, but I'm still speculating.
The TIE Whisper.
Yeah, I'm still speculating that is like a training montage between Rey and Kylo. Like
the softest of TIE names.
Yeah, right. The TIE Silencer. Now it's the TIE Whisper. Yeah. It's like, I'm a little less quiet.
Yeah. He's learning how to verbalize, Alex.
He's trying to express his feelings
through whispers.
I tweeted out, it's like, well, how else do you say the secret things in your heart? Yes, no. No, he definitely has some stuff, some work that needs to happen. But I do think it's important to realize that when movies like this happen, that the context by which they are under really will determine how the audience feels about a redemption arc or somebody changing sides, etc. The things that allow us in, say, Avatar: The Last Airbender to identify and say Zuko is actually really good very quickly actually are the threat, the imminent threat of something bigger and like badder. And it is a 2-hour movie-ish, maybe more. It's going to be a quick turn when it happens, and we're going to accept it because of the context of the situation, because they're going to make it happen. Redemption is coming. I think you believe that, Alex and Molly.
Well, it's funny that you keep talking about Last Airbender, and you probably heard me say that, like, I watched it for the first time. I started it last December and finished it this past January. And Zuko was one of the things where I was like, every time he had a chance to do the right thing, I'd be like, just do it this time, do it. I want you to be good. And then near the end, I was like, oh my God, there were always parallels between him and Kylo Ren, but I was like, I'm rooting for him to be good so hard. And like, I get it now.
Yeah. And like, it's not once the decision is finally made, no matter how many times they've like kind of turned back from that, that's literally how change works in humanity, is that, you know, you're trying to quit smoking and you fail a bunch of times and then eventually you do. You know, part of redemption is that it's forward from that day on, and it's an active choice to, you know, choose to be good every day. Everybody makes that choice. And maybe it becomes easier over time for you once you actually finally do it. But yeah, it's not something that's like, especially from a Buddhist perspective and from a Zen Buddhism perspective, which a lot of the Force and the concepts of it are pulled from, they don't even believe in atonement. Like, it's just, you're good. Oh, you're good now. Cool. You've learned your lesson. Because anybody who hasn't learned their lesson on how to be good and are kind of maybe acting in an evil manner or in a selfish manner are just children. They just haven't learned yet. I.e., Kylo is a baby.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm on board with that because I totally agree that in the real world, like, Vader doesn't get to make one good decision. And by the way, it's like the easiest decision ever, like save your son's life or let the wrinkled old monster kill him. He makes that one decision, gets to go to Force Heaven. And I'm like, if he had survived, what would that have looked like? He wouldn't be partying with the Ewoks. So that's interesting because, like, I want Kylo to be redeemed and then survive, but I'm like, how would Star Wars handle that? Because I don't want everyone in the galaxy to be just like, oh, that's fine. That whole Hosnian thing, like, I know you didn't push the button, but like, he was there.
Yeah, you think that he needs to kind of pay for what he's done in some form?
I want him to help heal the galaxy, and I don't know what that looks like. I don't really want him to end in like Avatar. I don't want him to end in prison. I want him to have a chance.
I think it's really important to realize that there's an entire generation of First Order troops and soldiers and officers that are children that are stolen from the galaxy.
Yeah.
Right? So there is a lot more to the First Order's kind of turning around and forward from today that needs to be healed than just Kylo, who is also in some ways a stolen child, even though he's a 30-year-old man. They wrote him like a teenager. I'm totally. Sorry. So
I agree with that for sure.
Like, that's part of the story, is that there is an entire generation of people that are trying to do what they think is right in their own minds that have been programmed and literally brainwashed to do this. And that wound, the stormtroopers that came from the clone troopers that are now the First Order troopers and the Sith troopers, whoever they are, needs to be solved and healed.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so we've talked about this with the Sky Talkers, that we're all on board for like a stormtrooper revolt, because I'd love to see the idea that the white armored troopers who have been a part of every trilogy kind of get to be their own singular character. They get their own arc where it's like, no, we get to choose who we are, and who we want to be.
They all take their helmets off.
Yeah, and like the Sith troopers is a great way to show that, like, oh well, the white ones are good now, the red ones are bad now. Like, you can distinguish who's fighting who. The fact that they are all stolen children, I would really love to see them get to be the masters of their own destiny and fight back.
And in some ways, like, the stormtroopers fulfill this, like, it's very fallen angel type idea, because they started out as these, you know, heroic clone troopers that were there to save the day. And with the fall of the Jedi Order, they took on this persona of almost bringing hell to the galaxy. And in Fallen Order, the symbolism is very like, oh, what if heaven lost? You know, like hell on earth. Like that door that he goes into is very Rodin.
I mean, the art of cover.
Yeah, the art of cover.
Insane.
It looks like a gateway into hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of the, you know, Dante's Inferno imagery in there as well. I definitely feel like Fallen Order is calling symbolically to a failed holy war that now, you know, a lost little angel boy is on the run.
That's the perfect way to describe
BD1, I think.
Oh.
I love that little droid.
Yeah. I was going to say the actor.
Cameron Monaghan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was he in Gotham?
Yes.
As the Joker?
I think so. We haven't watched Gotham, but
yeah,
I remember seeing his face pop up. I think his name was like
He's
Jerome
a really talented actor.
I've heard this is going to be the first time I actually see him in anything, I think, unless he's just popped up and I never realized in the past.
Yeah.
So anything else from like a Tross perspective, The Rise of Skywalker, that you think would be really cool to see?
I guess I'm interested in what they're going to do with Palpatine. I'm kind of wary of how he's coming back. I really didn't like the whole clone thing in Legends, where he just had a bunch of clones of himself and he could move his mind from one to another. I'm like not on board with that idea, but if he's some sort of spirit, I don't know. I assume whatever's going on with him has to do with the Force, and I hope it's cool.
You hope it's cool, but not like too out there.
Yeah. I don't know. My biggest concern is that Anakin was meant to destroy the Sith, and if they bring Palpatine back too much, then it seems like his sacrifice was meaningless.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I didn't like the clones in Legends.
Yeah. I'm excited to see like what Rey and Kylo, what do they do from then on out? Like what happens to the Jedi? Because they can't just go away. I don't want them to go away.
Yeah, like the war's
There's a
over.
theme park, for gosh sakes.
Yeah.
Kids gotta learn how to make lightsabers.
Right. Yeah. I want to see Rey and Kylo figure out how to continue the line of the Jedi. Maybe they call it something else. I don't know. Maybe Rey takes Kylo door to door and makes him apologize to everyone in the universe.
There it is.
That's part of staying on the Halcyon, is that you can get a personal apology by Kylo Ren because he's on there.
But he'll know how to project himself now. So he's just going to project himself into everyone's home so he can like do it efficiently. Just scare people. You're like, hi, just wanted to let you know I'm sorry. And he'll back out.
Yeah.
Just ruin
I mean, we gotta
somebody's
think
day.
it's a fairy tale though.
Right.
And like these things just it don't happen in fairy tales.
Yeah. It is.
It's the context. The context will make it make sense.
Yeah, and I have faith that it will. It'll be like there is like this warring side of me where I'm like, yes, Star Wars is a fairy tale, and yes, Vader gets to go to Force heaven. But there's always like that analytical part of me that is like, well, hold on now, and I have to just like really turn that off.
So what does Palpatine want?
I assume he wants to. So I'm like hoping he's not a clone. I'm hoping he doesn't have, I guess, a physical body. So maybe he's trying to get one. trying to cling to life the way that Maul did after episode 1.
They certainly seem to be able to if they're a powerful enough Force user. They possess objects. They, with Bogans, with Bane possessing his tomb in the Yoda Lost Missions.
Moment in his mask, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm right now assuming that he's just kind of hanging out in the Death Star, that he's been trapped there.
Yeah.
But
I think he, ever since the events of The Force Awakens, like something awakened, and maybe that awakened Palpatine's essence, whatever it is that he is, a ghost, a haunting, I don't know. And maybe, he's sensing the death of Snoke and the rise of Kylo Ren and like his anger, and he's like, oh, my people are coming back. I should maybe look into this. Maybe the Sith are going to be a thing again.
We're bringing it back.
We're going to try again. This time it'll work.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the idea of there being an awakening and then the loss of Luke. Yeah, I think Palpatine, whatever's left of Palpatine, is coming back to yet again cause trouble and try to take over.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever talked about this on the podcast, actually, but there is a really amazing story written by Claudia Gray in A Certain Point of View called Master and Apprentice. And it's basically the story of Qui-Gon Jinn as a Force ghost talking to Obi-Wan Kenobi on, during the course of A New Hope, kind of before he kind of officially gets together with Luke and they go on their adventure. He's kind of trying to convince him what he needs to do is right. And there's this beautiful paragraph where it's describing how he's basically pulling himself together from the Force, and how Claudia describes it is that it's actually painful for him to be separate from the Force, except for the fact that he knows that he will soon be one with the Force. So you got to imagine that being a Force Sith ghost or a Ghast or whatever these things are is actually incredibly painful. And it really ties to kind of that concept that, the devil was so in love with God that when Lucifer, was separated from God, that was actually the pain that kind of bled out into hell. It's like this idea that the separation from God is the most painful thing. So the separation from the Force, not being able to become one with the Force, is actually very painful.
Yeah, I like that. And I definitely remember the Qui-Gon story, and I kind of used that as that's why you don't see the Force ghosts pop up left and right. Like, they don't want to solve all your problems.
It's hard, dude.
Yeah, it hurts. I'd rather be in paradise. Let me chill. So yeah, the idea that Palpatine is experiencing the opposite thing, I think, is probably true.
Yeah, and it kind of gives this, like, I don't know, personal motivation for him wanting to control the Force. He wants to, he's always wanted to control it, but he was always just kind of looking for more and more power. But this is because he is so separate from it that he is unable to actually ever be a part of it, at least at this point. Trust being what it is, we're going to be heading into the next, world, etc. Post, Skywalker saga. We know Project Luminous is upcoming. We know that's going to be Force related. I know we don't have any information. They've been really strict about not giving us anything at all. What would you like to see?
I think they're gonna reveal it probably next weekend, honestly, at New York Comic-Con.
In New York City Comic-Con? This is
my hope. Lucasfilm, I feel like, Lucasfilm Publishing, Del Rey, I feel like they like to make announcements at NYCC.
They've already said that they have a couple of big announcements.
Okay.
So probably the novelization.
I guess I'm hoping. This is just me, wanting to know really bad. But yeah, it feels like a good time to say what we're going to get into after Rise of Skywalker. But my hope is that it's a series of books or comics, multimedia, whatever, because Charles Soule mostly deals in comics, but he's written 2 novels as well. So I'd really love it if it were an ongoing series of book-only stories, because that's something that I have missed in the new canon. And Legends I mean, obviously they did it in Legends because the books were the backbone of the universe, but having something like the New Jedi Order where multiple authors were contributing to this one ongoing storyline, and like we know that these 5 authors are meeting together, so they're working on something that I hope is just one through line.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think it's going to be post The Rise of Skywalker from a timeline perspective?
Hard to say.
I think
it could be, and Project Luminous could be about whatever the New Jedi Order looks like, if it's and what it's called. It could also be Old Republic and like the creation of the Jedi.
I think it's more likely that they'll go back in time instead of forward.
I feel like that too.
I feel like it's easier to do that, and Lucasfilm probably needs to take some time and go like, where are we going to go from here?
Yeah.
I think they already know.
Really? Post-Tross?
Post-Tross, I think it's the end of what we know.
Right.
I think the Force is actually going to change at the end of Tross.
Sure. I think it might too.
Yeah, I think the Force will probably say, because there's this concept that the Force is sick, that is introduced in, Master and Apprentice, in Dooku Jedi Lost, in the prequels themselves, like, oh, we've lost our connection to the Force. We can't tell what's happening. The dark side clouds everything. There's something wrong with the galaxy that allows Force users, especially, to slip towards the darkness very easily. It's off balance.
I remember I had a wacky theory when we first just heard the title The Force Awakens. I was like, what if it's like at the end of Buffy the Vampire Slayer where all the potential Slayers get to be Slayers, and like The Force Awakens in everybody.
Broom boy.
Yeah.
I don't think that you're necessarily wrong. I think that's totally on the table. Like the idea that everybody has the choice. Mm-hmm. It's not just like the chosen few. It is everybody. And that also kind of feels very like, happily ever after from a Disney perspective. Not to be cynical about the fact that Disney owns Lucasfilm, but Disney owns Lucasfilm and they've built a theme park.
Yeah, and they have to find a way to give this an uplifting ending. They can't leave it on a downer.
Uh-huh.
They can't kill Kylo and leave it open.
I think that that's what it is. It's the end. It's the resolution. It's the end of the Star War. Like, how does that end? Mm-hmm. Well, you give people the choice to turn away from the dark side and be good people. Yeah. And right now in the galaxy, the endless suffering is a symptom of the fact that people don't have the choice to turn towards the light or to have balance within themselves. They slide very easily.
Yeah. I mean, the idea that it is the Skywalker saga, I would like to see just this be the story of how this one family really messed up the galaxy for a few years, but ultimately left it better than it was. And yeah, probably changed the Force significantly, especially knowing that their line, as far as we know it, Anakin and beyond, were born of the Force. It feels like they should have a pretty huge destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we know that there was a rift, and if I'm going to play like the storytelling marketing tool engine a little bit and say they're going to set up, because of all the Sith and Jedi iconography that we are seeing, it is setting up to say that is healing the wound of the past. Well, when did that wound happen? Well, it was when the Jedi and Sith split, which means that we will get stories about knights and wars and awesome, amazing Sith Jedi, like cataclysm, basically.
Yeah. That's what I'm hoping that one of the trilogies is doing.
Amazing Sith weapons, amazing Jedi weapons, and I hope the split was caused by some sort of like love situation, because that would be perfect, because then it's like the Padme stuff and this like, chiastic storytelling over and over and over again, which is very, very Star Wars.
All of this has happened before, and all of it will happen again.
Yes.
Whoa, some Battlestar. Yeah, like that's what I think that we're going to explore the past for a while. I think eventually, at some point, they'll go beyond 9, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if we got like some more books and comics. And so what did Poe get up to after Episode 9? But like the big stuff, I think it's going to be a while before we jump into that. I think we'll explore previous stuff for a while. And if Project Luminous is going to be what I hope, like one big series, I think that'll be in the past as well.
You probably have to think about like how long it took them to make like this saga and kind of all the properties around it, and take that, and then maybe after that time range is when they would consider going after The Rise of Skywalker from a movie property perspective. Maybe not a show. They might do a show, but they would have to have a really good plan and a reason to say, how did the galaxy get screwed up again?
Yeah, that's a good point, and something that was frustrating in Legends, where it's like, well, the Sith are still around and they're still mucking things up, and hey, there's 8 more super weapons, and it's like, yeah, nothing ever gets resolved.
I think that there was just so many questions left over from the Return of the Jedi that there was all of that, open storytelling area that people filled it, right? Whereas if this is truly going to be the end, they're going to have to fix the problems of the past.
It would be interesting if Episode 9 were just the end of the timeline forever. Like the galaxy lived happily ever after, and we're not moving past this.
That's the fairy tale ending, though. That is very Disney.
You should sell your holocron theory.
Oh, well, we talked about this with the last Q&A. You mentioned how some of the old Disney movies would end with the pages turning and the book closing. The Rise of Skywalker is going to end with a holocron closing, and a guardian of the will just puts it up on a shelf with a bunch of other holocrons, and this is just one of many stories that is all similar.
I just got chills. That's so fairy tale. I love it.
Yeah.
And like R2's like there like beeping or something.
Yeah. R2 is going to be there in the very end, like finally
I told this story. I mean that is what George Lucas like thought. You know, part of the holocrons though that has gone super mystical is this, that they actually have a piece of the essence of the person. So that's kind of what is going on with that. No, but yeah, I love that idea. That's great, Molly.
Yeah.
If we go far, far back in the past with kind of the Jedi and the Sith separation at some point in the future, what is something that you would like to see
in the future?
We go back to the past in the future storytelling.
Gotcha.
I mean, what you said, I think, is probably the most likely scenario to get the 100-year darkness is what they called it in Legends, and it has been brought up in canon. So to have that first big split and like what did cause this rift and how did those first wars look, I think that's probably a pretty likely story to explore.
I've already said it, but like the first Jedi, the first Sith, how all of this started, I think would be really cool to explore.
And that could be one trilogy where we get the start and everything's like kind of good. I guess I'm kind of seeing it as I wouldn't mind them being separate. And I think those could be like the same trilogy, but I think it's more likely, or I would prefer it be 2 different ones. Like I think it would be enough to explore the creation of the Jedi, and then another trilogy could be the split. I think I would like to see a whole trilogy about Jedi and Sith fighting, rather than like 1 or 2 movies where everything's cool and then in the third everything falls apart. But I mean, I guess that's kind of similar to what the prequel trilogy was.
Killing off all the Sith is kind of an interesting thing to be like, let's see that on screen.
That's another one. Like that happened 1,000 years before. Yeah. Darth Bane alone would be a fantastic trilogy that I'd love to see. So maybe that's it. Maybe we get like the start of the Sith Wars, and then we get the end of the Sith Wars. Yeah, those could be 2 different trilogies.
Like there was a time difference where they kind of had this unsteady like Cold War almost. You know, Are the Mandalorian Wars officially like in canon?
Yeah, they've been mentioned a handful of times, and I feel like they could work that in with any conflict with the Sith because they've kind of done some stuff together in the past.
I would love to know more about the Mandalorian Wars.
What I want to see more of is how do you separate them from a style perspective? Because I think it would be really cool to pull in some of the things that they've brought into the sequel trilogy, like armor And like the Knights of Ren, because they're artifact hunters, have like found this stuff and like make that actually new and shiny and cool in the past, like telling almost like medieval Star Wars stories.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Take some stuff you've already created when it was all like old and dirty, and make it new.
Make it new, and also like make it like functional, and like why is that way? Why does Kylo have a crusader type design for his sword? You know, are there force like lightsaber pikes, or I don't know. I want all the cool toys, because then it expands and makes the world even richer and deeper, and creates this like layered mythology to why these things exist.
Yeah,
sure.
Which is fun. Yeah. Well, we've speculated a bit.
A bit.
A bit. So thank you, Alex and Molly, for coming on the show. I'm so happy to have had you and just been able to actually chat after meeting you actually at Celebration. That was so much fun. Although I think everybody like goes in Celebration to like you're meeting so many people. You're like, oh, who are you? You didn't know who I was then, and now you do. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
This was really fun.
It was a great talk.
Yeah.
And honored to be on the 100th episode.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. This is our 100th episode, and thanks for coming on and just, I don't know, riffing Star Wars with me and just chatting about the Force, which is like my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, we love to riff about Star Wars.
We'll have to come back on after The Rise of Skywalker and laugh about all the stuff we got wrong.
I was going to say we'll have to come back on once Hilo's grown up and chilled out. We can do this peacefully.
Yes, I have no idea what to expect, but I'm excited for what The Rise of Skywalker is going to bring. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we should get a new trailer soon, within a couple weeks, I'd guess.
I would guess probably the first two weeks in October. Just the rumor is it's going to be in the Maleficent, like theatrical release. So
yeah,
and that's also timing wise when they start to do tickets.
Right. It's always like early mid-October, so
soon. Too soon. In case people haven't ever been on the internet, where can people find you?
Our YouTube channel is called Star Wars Explained, and we put out daily videos about Star Wars, keeping up with the books and the comics and stuff. And then
Star Wars Explained on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the same, pretty much everywhere.
Yep.
And Molly, your personal stuff?
I'm at Molly Damon on Twitter, and my Instagram is mostly pictures of the dog and cat.
But cute.
Yeah, Molly Mander 05 on Instagram. We do have a blog channel. We haven't uploaded a ton of stuff on it recently because of our new little family member down here, but hopefully soon we'll have more on the blog channel.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you for listening to What the Force. I'm Marie-Claire Gould, your host. Our music is the What the Force theme, orchestral music by Christy Carew. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/whattheforce. We like to thank all our patrons, especially those who love What the Force: Night Huntress, In Wild Space, Susan, Kathy, and Cassandra Corvid. We are available on iTunes, Google Play, and other podcatchers, including YouTube. If you would like to support the show in other ways, please leave a 5-star review on iTunes. You can connect to us on Twitter at What the Force Show. Feel free to reach out and start a conversation. Cheers.
Sorry, he just peed. You're killing me today, Hilo.
We're almost done.
He has just been exceptionally bad today.
rare form.
Like all day, not just right now.